Hello, we are on Unit 1, Lesson 5, Day 2. So we are going to multiply, divide, and simplify rational expressions. So your learning targets here are to multiply rational expressions and divide rational expressions. Our example here, what we have here is we have some polynomials here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to factor these, and then we're going to cross out things as we go. So what we want to do here is we want to factor each polynomial, and then cancel or simplify. All right, so if you look at this first one here, x squared plus 2x minus 3, can we factor that? Sure. What multiplies to give us -3 and adds to give us a 2? That would be a -3 and a +3. So this is x minus 1 plus 3. And then what times what gives you x squared? X. What multiplies to give you 16 and adds to give you 8? That would be 4 and 4. When you have that 3x plus 12, I'm looking at that. When you have something like that, that's called a binomial because there's two terms connected by addition or subtraction. And there isn't an x squared term in there, so you kind of want to look for GCF in that one. So if you look at 3 and what is 12 there, what goes into both of those? 3 does. So pull out a 3. 3 times what is 3x would be an x. 3 times what is 12 would be a 4. And then the 1 down there, denominator, that x minus 1 cannot be, you cannot do anything else with that one. So we're going to leave that one alone. Now look to see, we factored everything. Now we just want to see if we can cancel anything out. Does anything match? One thing at the top with one at the bottom. They have to be, it's like x minus 1 is attached, that's one term. 3 is all by itself, so it was a 3 in the numerator and a 3 in the denominator, and they were alone. You could cross them out. But x minus 1s can be crossed out here. And then the x plus 4, they're attached, they're one term, so that can be crossed out with one of these at the bottom. You can't cross out multiples at the bottom because there's not multiples up in the top. So what are you left with in the top? You're left with a 3, and then an x plus 3, and then all over x plus 4. All right, so then our next one there, we have a 4x. And then down here, we have the difference of squares. So what's the square root of x squared? It's x. What's the square root of 4? It's 2. And then one's a plus and one's a minus. And so then we have an x plus 2 and a 16x. So now, one term at the top with one at the bottom, so I can see there's x plus 2 that's attached together. I have another x plus 2 down here. Now this 4x up in the numerator and the 16x down the denominator, those are just single terms there, so you've got an x and an x. What about 4 and the 16 there? Does something go into 4 that also goes into 16? Yeah, 4 goes into 4 there once. 4 goes into 16 there 4 times. So then up there in the numerator, we're just left with a 1. And then down the denominator, we're left with 4 times x minus 2. So what you want to get it down to is just one single fraction, something in the numerator and something in the denominator each time. So looking at our next one here, it's a your turn, so if you want to stop the video and try that out and see if you can get that, and then once you have that, you can restart it and see how you went. All right, so now we're back. We're going to factor the numerator. What multiplies to give you negative 12 and adds to give you a negative 1? That'd be a minus 4 and a plus 3. X squared minus 9, that's the difference of squares. So the square root of x squared there is x. The square root of 9 there's 3. And then 1's a plus and 1's a minus. Alright, so now looking at these, you can see that the x plus 3's perfectly match. And then we've got an x plus 3 in the numerator, but you have an x minus 3 in the denominator. Those do not match. Something that you need to know here is that we can rewrite, whenever you see an x minus 4 and a 4 minus x, so there's two terms that are connected together by subtraction, but they're in reverse order there. They're not going to match. Even if I turn that x minus 4 around, it's going to be a negative 4 plus x, and we have a 4 minus x. But the interesting thing that we can do here is if I take x minus 4 and I take a negative 1 out of each of the terms there, so negative 1 times what gives me a positive x would be a minus x. And negative 1 times what is a negative 4? It would be a plus 4. And then if I rewrite that, I get negative 1 times 4 minus x. So x minus 4 is the same thing as negative 1 times 4 minus x. So I could replace this with negative 1 times 4 minus x. And then notice what happens here is this 4 minus x and this 4 minus x can cancel out. So we're left here with negative 1, and I'm going to reverse the order of this 3 plus x. I'm going to write it as x plus 3. Although you could write it as 3 plus x. And then some people would distribute that negative 1 through the x plus 3 and say negative x minus 3. I just leave it like that. That's fine. Like I said, someone else might say negative x minus 3 all over x minus 3. Either one of those works. Alright, so multiply and then simplify. So looking at the next one here, again, factor those. So let's factor them. What times what gives you x squared? It'd be an x. What multiplies to give you 12 and adds to give you 7? That'd be a 3 and a 4. What multiplies to give you 2 and adds to give you 3? That'd be a 2 and a 1. Up here, what multiplies to give you 6 and adds to give you a 5? That'd be a 2 and a 3. What multiplies to give you 9 and adds to give you 6? That would be a 3 and a 3. Alright, so now you can cross out one factor up in the numerator with one down the denominator there. So an x plus 2 is going. I've got an x plus 3 is going. Oh, there's another pair of x plus 3's. And so we're simply left there with x plus 4 over x plus 1. Letter B there. What times what gives you 2x squared? It'd be a 2x and an x. What multiplies to give you a 1? It'd be a 1 and a 1. And then remember, you got to check your inners and outers. So if I did that, inside here it'd be a 1x, on the outside it'd be 2x, and 1x plus 2x does give me 3x. So remember the guess and check. What multiplies to give you x squared? It'd be an x and an x. What multiplies to give us a negative 15 and adds to give us a positive 2? That would be a plus 5 and a minus 3. What multiplies to give us 2x squared? That would be a 2x and an x. What multiplies to give us a positive 3, knowing I have to get a negative on the inside, so it's going to have to be a minus and a minus. So I'm going to need a 3 and a 1, and you're going to have to decide where they go, and I see it, they go here. Because if I do that, the outsides there is going to give me a minus 6x, the inside is going to give me a negative 1x. You add that together, you get a negative 7x. And then down below here, what multiplies to give you 5 and adds to give you 6, that would be a 5 and a 1. So now if you can find any terms that match, one at the bottom with one at the top there, so I've got x plus 1s are going. And I see an x minus 3s. So I'm left here with 2x plus 1, 2x minus 1, all over. Notice we have 2x plus 5, so you could write it down here twice, or you could just say x plus 5 squared. So either way, I'll write the other one out too. Works. Either one of those works. So again, we're going to go ahead and factor these and then see if we can simplify these. So now I've got a couple of variables in here that makes it a little bit more interesting. So if I factor this x and x, what multiplies to give me y squared, it'd be a y and a y. So then if you look at your middles there, you get a 1xy and a 1xy, and that indeed does add to give me a 2xy. So don't forget, you can put, if it helps to put like 1s here in front. Let me do it. So a 1y and a 1y, so that you don't forget it's a 1xy and a 1xy that adds to give you a 2xy. That sometimes helps people. All right, and then down here in the denominator, it's a difference of squares. So the square root of the first term there is x. The square root of the second term there is a y. And then one has to be a plus and one has to be a minus. And then we've got what times what gives you 2x squared. That'd be a 2x and a y. 2x times x gives me a 2x squared. What times what gives me y squared? It'd be a y. So now you got to think about this. The outside is going to give me a 2xy. The inside here is going to give me a 1xy. So the 2xy part needs to be the minus because you need a minus on the inside. It's the larger. So down here in the denominator, what times what gives you x squared? What times what gives you 2y squared? And then one has to be a plus and one has to be a minus in order for you to get a negative 2y squared. So now you have to figure out which one that is. So if I do that, on the inside I'm going to get a 2xy, on the outside I'm going to get a 1xy. Well, the 2xy is larger and it has to be the minus because there's a minus xy on the inside. And that will give me a minus 1xy on the inside. Alright, so now let's see what we can cross out here. We've got an x plus y here, and an x plus y. We've got an x minus y and an x minus y, x plus y and an x plus y. And so it looks like here we're left with 2x plus y all over x minus 2y. Alright, so our next ones here we're going to divide and simplify. So let me explain some division to you. So when you divide, what you want to do is you want to keep the first fraction as is. And then with the second fraction there, what you want to do with that is you want to So we're going to still multiply. So we say we multiply by the reciprocal or the flip of the second fraction. All right, so if I were to rewrite this, it would look like this. It'd go 4y squared minus 9 over 2y squared plus 9y minus 18 times, we're going to change this into multiplication. So we're going to flip the second fraction. Notice I left the first fraction exactly the way it was. All right, so we're going to go ahead now and factor the numerator there. What times what gives you 4y squared there? That's going to be our 2y. Remember, difference of squares, so you can think square root there either as well. And then square root of 9, there's 3. And one's a plus and one's a minus. And then down here in the denominator, what times what gives you 2y squared? 2y and y. What multiplies to give you 18? You got 9 and 2, 6 and 3, 18 and 1. I think I'm going to go with 6 and 3. And I'm going to put the larger number because in the middle it's got to be a positive in there. One of these has to be a minus and one has to be a positive. I'm going to put the plus over here because the larger there has to be the positive. So I got a 12y minus 3y will give me a 9y on the inside. And this is times. And I'm going to change pen colors here. So let's factor this. What times what gives you y squared? It'd be a y and a y. What multiplies to give you negative 6 there and adds to give you a positive 5. That would be a plus 6 and a minus 1. And then what multiplies to give you 2y squared? It'd be 2y. What multiplies to give you 3? It has to be a 3 and a 1. Knowing I have to get a 1 on the inside. So I'm looking here, and 1 has to be a plus and 1 has to be a minus because there's a minus 3 there on the outside. So the larger product here has to be the plus. So on the inside there is a plus 3y, on the outside is a minus 2y because that way I'll end up getting a plus 1y. All right, so let's look to see what we can cross out here. 2y plus 3 is going, y plus 6, y minus 1, and 2y minus 1. So now what is my solution? Is it 0? Is it 1? Is it nothing? Is it no solution? So when you cross out these pairs, you essentially put 1s above these. So if you think about it, 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 1 is 1, so you end up just getting a value there, 1. All right, on to our next one. Again, change it into a multiplication statement first. So doing so, I'm going to write this as x to the third over x plus 1 times the reciprocal. I'm going to see if I can factor anything. Can't factor anything in the first fraction there. If I go to the second fraction here, oh yeah, what times what gives me x squared? X. What multiplies to give me 1 and adds to give me 2? Yeah, 1 and 1. All right, now, can anything cross out? Yes, the x plus 1 matches the x plus 1. Now you've got these single monomials here. You've got this x to this third over x. So remember with monomials, what you do here is you subtract the powers over division. So x to the third minus x, you got 3 minus 1, there's 2, there's more at the top there. So we're going to cross these out. This is going to give me x to the second. So up there at the top, basically, you're just left with x squared times x plus 1. If you wanted to do a placeholder, there'd be a 1 at the bottom, but then you should really just simplify it down to x squared times x plus 1. I'm going to skip this your turn here. We're just going to go down here to the reduce problems here. So if I'm looking at the top here, what do these two terms have in common? They have a 2x in common. 2x times what is a 2x squared is an x. 2x times what is a minus 2x is a minus 1. And then we've got the difference of squares here. The square of the first term there is x. The square root of 1 there is 1. And 1's a plus and 1's a minus. So then what do they have in common there? They can cross out the x minus 1's. So there we have it. Let's try one more of these. Factor that numerator. What times what gives you 2x squared? It'd be 2x and x. What multiplies to give you 1, knowing you have to get a negative on the inside. So is it a plus plus or a minus minus? It has to be a minus minus. Check the inners and outers there. So you got a minus 2x and a minus 1x will give us a minus 3x, so that works. And then don't forget this down in this denominator down there, that is the difference of squares. So we need to find a, we need to find b. So a down there, we have to take the cube root of x to the third, and that gives us x. And then b there, we have to take the cube root of 1, which is 1. So how this goes is it's a minus b, so that's x minus 1. And then times a squared, which is x squared, plus ab. ab is x times 1, which is x, and then plus b squared, which is 1. All right, so let me write that out here. So a minus b times a squared plus ab plus b squared. That's what we put in there. So now what can cross out? The x minus 1's. And so what are we left here with? 2x minus 1 all over x squared plus x plus 1. So there we have it. So learning check. I can multiply and simplify rational expressions. I can divide and simplify rational expressions. So your assignment there is to do the 1-5 worksheet there, the Unit 1 Lesson 5 worksheet, and it's day 2.